Call a Public Works committee meeting to order. Our first order of business is to consider a resolution in support of cost of animal care legislation, House Bill 3682 and Senate Bill 456. I've asked staff to kind of bring us up to speed on what's being presented in Columbia, because we haven't had a chance to see this. It was on our agenda last Monday night for approval. I didn't think it was right for us to approve something that didn't at least come before this committee. And I don't want anybody on the committee to think that we wouldn't support it. It's just we haven't had a chance to even know what was in it. Right. To say that, at least I would like to give Public Works Committee blessing on something that we're gonna put our name on. So with that being said, give everybody a chance to look over what it actually says. Not even gonna read it out loud, but we have a copy of it in front of us. And usually our resolutions typically go through it with no hesitation, because it doesn't mean anything on us financially. But I did want to point out that this should at least have come to us. Our animal control director or public works director at least could have brought this to our attention prior to. So
the points you made in councilman were well noted, and management needs to be cognizant of that going forward, and we're going to do our best to try to do that. I don't think anybody on council objected to going to the committee, and it should to start with. We recognize that, and we'll try to make sure we're a little more diligent about that across the board.
And I should have warned everybody that I'm getting older. This is real hard to see. Thank you. Yeah. So
I can give you a quick and dirty, quick explanation.
You all want to hear that?
Let it rip.
No, all right. So this is a House bill that the House passed this bill actually, and it's now in the Senate. Just real quick, current law requires us to house any animals that are lawfully seized through cruelty or fighting cases, and we have to house those and maintain the care of those animals until disposition of the criminal case. So that could take years. Essentially, until they're found guilty or not guilty, we're housing these animals with no bond or anything like that. At the end of that, we can seek reimbursement, but only post-conviction. So 9 times out of 10, that dollar amount is so high that they're not, they're at that point they are then giving us the animals and allowing, but we then cared for them for 2 years because they can't afford that. So over those 2 years, that's ultimately paid for by the taxpayers. It minimizes our ability to provide services because we got to house those animals, and it's inhumane and it burns out staff. So essentially, this new law requires an upfront bond to be paid by the defendant if the animals are lawfully seized and found by the court. So they then have to pay an upfront bond for 30 days of care every 30 days. Or they can say we forfeit the animals, and then we are allowed to then disposition appropriately, either adoption, rescue, or other means. So it eliminates that extended stay and eliminates that long-term care of animals and the burden on the taxpayers to do that.
So with this being something done at the state level, I mean, this is a resolution coming from us in support of it.
Right.
So would it be a fair assessment to say it's
You gonna quote Robert Winkler?
No. Yeah. I mean, I have no problem supporting the resolution, but at the end of the day, it's going to be left up to the state. We couldn't pass a local ordinance on our own to do this.
Correct.
How
This is symbolic.
do you ensure that they'll pay that? I mean, other than
That you can't. But if they don't, then we can let the animal up for adoption. So it addresses the issue up front rather than post conviction.
Right. They have to pay that bond, or we then are owners of those animals.
Yeah, it's
so we can get rid of them.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, let's sign this bond.
Yeah.
Let's do
Like I said,
that.
it has passed the
Dog food's high.
It did pass the House in
Is
March.
that the form of motion, Tommy?
Yeah.
We got a motion to recommend?
Okay, so my next question would Well, Debbie, if you want a second, we can move
I
on.
will.
Okay, so, and I'll still ask this question while we, even though we have a motion and a second. With us still being working towards the no-kill scenario, we're still gonna house these, but now we just have the ability to adopt them out versus
Correct.
having to have them
They can
sit.
either be adopted, they can go to rescue, or quite honestly, they can go, if they're meet the criteria for euthanasia, they can at that point too. I mean, they get evaluated and they get dispositioned properly, so.
Okay, all right, well, we have a motion on the floor and a second to, in support of this resolution. I'll call for all in favor. Sounds like the ayes have it. So the committee will support, bringing this resolution back to the full council for consideration. Just wanted to make sure we kept things in proper order.
On the second item, Mr. Chairman, talked with Public Works earlier this week, and we talked again this afternoon. This is a position that we would like to have in next year's budget, but as of right now, we're not gonna be pursuing anything with this position. I think there's not enough clarity in where we wanna go with this, so this will be reconsidered in the next year's budget process.
Okay, so while we have a quick second, outside of the financing of this position in our budget, I know we talked about this officer, being not only a card carrying member, but a gun carrying member.
Yeah, and that was something I wanted to be on record as stating. There was, there's been some miscommunication about that, but that request originated from Public Works with the idea being that that officer would be more capable if they were gun carrying. That's, I'm not saying we have a different position on that because I'll be speaking with Mr. Moore, but that originated from Mr. Moore. We got that clarified of where that came from, and that was not without thought or merit. But again, right now, we want to make sure if we're going to put a recommendation, we're going to do it in conjunction with next year's budget and be able to defend that position, whether it be a gun carrying or not gun carrying at that point in time.
Well, could we actually, we were talking before y'all come back, have we actually approached the sheriff and asked him to tell his officers to pick up on looking out for folks?
Well, I kind of thought that, well, my sentiments to that would be, do we really want that to be a focus of our sheriff deputies?
No.
If they see it and it's obvious and it's blatant, but at the same time.
The litter is a problem that we want to address. I think we want to formulate a more detailed game plan than we have right now, and that would involve some discussions with the sheriff, but I agree with Mr. Riley's comments as well.
Okay,
All right, so
so
it's-
I have a question.
okay.
Okay, so this was something I brought up before, when we talked about it before, that if we're gonna do this and it be effective, I personally don't think it should just be one. And I see an S after officers here. So would you be proposing more than one?
That is something we're gonna figure out before the next budget process.
Okay.
Because the goal would be to come before you with a clear plan and clear use of those individuals. The hope would be that the revenue they would generate from the fines, whether it be issue the convenience centers
Yeah.
or stopping a truck driving down the road with an unsecured load, would pay for those if we go down the path of those positions. I understand there's a lot of concern with council on to taking that approach to trying to address the litter problem. But we want to make sure we come forward before council with a complete plan that we vetted and we feel is going to be worthwhile pursuing in the budget.
Now, a couple of years ago, didn't we hire like an additional person? How's that been working out for us with our litter? Was it just one?
That was a litter labor foreman, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Essentially, that is the person that either utilized at the time inmates and now temp labor to do cleanups. That's one. Again, that's one person.
One person.
And they're doing illegal dumping cleanups and cleanups around the landfill that we're required to do. So, and then county roads being that third priority, along with whatever tent staffing we can get. Like at the time, like I said, we had inmates.
Yeah.
So that's not an enforcement position. It was more of a laborer position that would pick up litter or lead a crew of litter pickup.
Well, just to show y'all how much of an issue the litter is throughout York County, I think the city has now started doing something with local organization. They're going out, because I saw them on Chair Road a couple weeks ago, and they're throughout Rock Hill at times. They're actually paying a contractor to go in, and I think they're working, I'll get Manny to verify some of this. They're using some people that frequent the Pathways facilities to go out. I seen them with the safety vests on, and I looked into it, and I think there were actually people that frequent the homeless shelter or the Pathways services to kind of get them to help with some of the litter stuff that they're seeing throughout Rock Hill.
I mean, I can tell you from my drive around the county, well, you live close to one of the convenience centers over the road, that's where we see a lot of the litter, is people going to and from the convenience centers, people driving there with an unsecured load and it's blowing out. I mean, that's where the litter problems are at on the roads. You know, and before we go down a path, we'd want to ensure that council would be willing to enforce anything we might want to put out there and follow through with it, because, you know, we've got some kickback in the past when we've enforced the secured load, and just want to make sure that, you know, council's on board with the path we're going to go down in that. Me personally, I mean, I think that's where the majority of it's coming from. You can figure that out by driving around and see where it's going on.
Oh, yeah.
You go on a road that's got a convenience store on there, you'll see the trash on that road much more so than the other ones, but it's a problem.
Real quick, when you stepped out, I mentioned to the committee that I've seen some people in the vests along Chair Road and some other places in the city utilizing some resources. Are some of those individuals, do y'all work with the city through Pathways on some litter pickup and cleanup?
You know, one of the 17 nonprofit agencies at Pathways is the Bethel Day Center, and they have a work program whereby people can call and hire people from Bethel to come do cleanup work, and I believe the city does use some of those people for that purpose.
Gotcha. I mentioned that when
The
you.
county is more than welcome to hire some more if you'd like, because they need the hours and they need the work.
Gotcha. I mentioned that when you stepped out, because I've seen them, and I found out that they were kind of something coordinated through Pathways or an agency over at Pathways. All right, so we'll hold off on that and look to have this discussion more about this officer, or how do we handle this during budget time if we're bringing new people on. So that brings us to our third and final point of discussion regarding a sticker/barcode program at the collection and recycling centers. We've talked about this in the past, and it goes back to even when David Harmon was on staff, of how do we verify people that's using our recycling centers and landfills that well, obviously, how do we verify, have a system in place that they are allowed to be using our recycling centers? We had this discussion about the stickers. We had the discussion about, obviously, our attendants are able to check driver's license if they feel the need. And we kind of went away from that because one of the things that was said, even up in the Fort Mill area, is that a lot of people that lived in the Fort Mill area may be driving company cars or didn't switch their license plate over. And if we're turning people away from our recycling centers, now we fall back to exactly what we just got through talking about. Those bags of trash are going to end up on the side of the road. So it's kind of like the catch-22. We want people to recycle and bring them to these facilities. And I thought about this earlier, if we went to a sticker system, everybody in the county can use our recycling centers. We have to basically send out stickers to everybody in this county. Some have multiple cars. How do we handle? We have 3 cars. At any moment, any one of those 3 cars can end up at the recycling center.
Yeah.
How do how would we address something
That'd
like
get
that
expensive too, wouldn't it?
on our part? Because we're not going to charge people for a sticker. So just, unless there's something new, if you guys got anything to add or questions for Public Works, so, but I think we've covered this. Unless staff wants to educate us on something else.
I mean, the only thing I'm gonna say as a consumer, that we have a company car with the North Carolina tag on it. So we just common sense would say you don't take that car to the recycling center, duh.
Now you're being silly, you know my common sense.
That's out of order.
I mean,
But
I
what-
know that that's a problem in the future, but what I'm getting at is, but we have a driver's license if we took the car. And if a North Carolina car, why can't that guy go over and check their driver's license?
They can.
They can.
They can, and we do. We do check licenses as we can. If, some of these sites are very busy, we got 1, maybe 2 attendants at them. Any of North Carolina license plate that they see and can get to them in time, they're questioning it. That leads to other situations,
Yeah.
but 9 times out of 10, but yes, we are questioning. We can do that. We can't stop them. We don't have that enforcement power, but we can prevent them. We can educate them and tell them
Okay.
that this is for York County residents only.
So another point to this, Sam's Club, you gotta show your Sam's card. Why can't we do a sign? I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, y'all can laugh at me or whatever, but you have a sign up,
Be ready to present your license.
license.
Do we have those up that we
Or
could-
do you
we
have
can't
them up?
ask?
There's a sign at every center that says you're subject to a license check and a
No.
residency check.
Be
Yeah.
prepared to show your license.
But you'll have,
But
those centers get busy, people show up without a license, they get irate, there's a scene.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them.
It's a mess. And
So we can't even do
We are really
that.
a victim of what we've done in this county, because I've worked for a long time. I think Greenville County's got 6, including the landfill, go take your stuff. I used to go, we would take turns in the cul-de-sac, who would go take their stuff out there, because it'd be a 45-minute wait every time to get there. It always was. Because they're not quite twice our size, and they got 6 of them, including the landfill. Our citizens expect to sort of just pull on up and just drop it on up without a pause or wait. If there's a 2-car, 3-car wait, we'll literally get calls. I had to wait behind 2 cars here. Seriously.
yeah.
And it's a lot of this stuff, I was just talking to Eric, what if they showed up and didn't have one? We said, I know you should have a sticker, do you have a license, driver's license? It's the amount of drama that we're gonna experience at these centers. And ultimately, that drama is gonna result in y'all getting a lot of irate phone calls. Now, if council is willing to say, we'll suck it up and deal with the phone calls, we would work with our staff to avoid the drama. But it is you got some people who just wanna drop their stuff right off, and you've got our labor force that works at the convenience centers tend to have them, they're usually older gentlemen who are already retired.
Yeah.
Just do not deal with you, honestly.
Yeah.
And so it's a touchy situation, and I think the goal ultimately is to get people in and out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
We know there's abuse, and that if we have the sticker system or whatever you're gonna have some abuse in there, somebody went up there, somebody else's license. It's
But-
just, it's a challenge.
But have you looked at, because I know, we have business cards
What do you mean, sir?
that actually are stickers also.
Who said we
There's
don't
no
need
answer.
And we,
Oh.
like the initial
Well, we're
setup
not
for
gonna
that
talk about
cost us $800 for that die. And then Carolyn orders them at like 5,000.
Either we
And depending
stop-
on how much coloring or what you want, you're
And there's
looking
no
at
answer.
anywhere from 7 to
Just-
15 cents per sticker.
It would not be without expense, to your point.
Yeah.
And the way I look at this, just to be candid, if we're gonna have to spend money and we're gonna create more drama in the convenience centers than
Is that
benefit
what-
we have from this,
Yeah.
it's a challenge. And we're blessed by what we have. If we were doing this all over again, we might do a little differently. It's no different than paying taxes. You go to pay your taxes in Greenville County, you can expect to spend your entire lunch hour waiting in line. They have less people than we do in staff in the windows over there, because you can expect to wait. If we did that, y'all would be getting blown up. It's what they're used to getting, the service they're used to getting. And the convenience centers are a unique animal. seriously, because the people that are working there are different than the ones we've got in the office over here. And the people showing up at the convenience center, they're not in a good mood usually.
Yeah.
They end up getting, so I think staff is doing the best they can in the circumstances, and the recommendation of staff right now would still be, while I think, this idea is worth considering, we've looked into, just not something we feel would be the appropriate thing to do, primarily because it's gonna create a lot of drama for y'all.
All right, well,
I've seen this down in Beaufort County.
You can advocate for green boxes again?
No. I think you're right on. I'd stay clear of it. They make us put stickers on the windshields and it slows up the whole process.
Yeah.
Somebody has to come up and scan the sticker,
Oh,
make
no.
sure you're
Scanning
right.
them all,
Cars are lined up trying to get in and out of that place.
limitations and everything there.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
that's
think you just gotta suck it up.
So,
Hey, we vetted this years ago, but somehow it came back up because it wasn't a good idea then, but it's certainly still not a good idea
yeah,
today.
quickly, Cleveland County, North Carolina just did a press release where they suspended this program, so I contacted their solid waste.
Yeah.
Contacted their solid waste director, and I just asked him because it wasn't clear in the article, and he said, quite honestly, it was ultimately the residents, when they were coming in, if they either didn't get their sticker yet, or they had a different car, or
Yeah.
they didn't have it with them, they were like, I have it, and it just created drama
Yeah.
and a backup, and everybody was fighting, and they're just like, it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, have y'all ever actually, what do you figure comes right across the state line?
What what material? That's large and bulky and C&D material because it's not accepted at the centers on that side, or they have different hours, or
We've got our municipalities that literally market to their citizens,
That
go
too.
take it out there.
Take it to the land.
We've talked about this before, the convenience centers, we've got challenges
we
there.
are.
That is the one fund that we've consistently raised taxes in to try to keep up with it. It's a challenge. It's a service, at the end of the day, this is what I encourage council to think about. It's a service we're providing our citizens, but it's also 100% funded by the unincorporated area as well.
Because city residents can bring their stuff right to the recycling center.
So I mean, that's something, during
Or
an
convenience
upcoming
centers.
budget, we might look at doing away with that and going to some kind of countywide millage to fund this, because I always try to, when you're using a service, or the right people paying for it. And, I think right now, I honestly, I don't like the way this is set up. The idea was people live in the city where they got city trash, they're not gonna be using it. Well, the reality is, that's where a lot of our most expensive items come from, the large and
Balls
bulky.
and bolts.
So, we have the ability to be creative with our millage because we got so much room, cushion of unutilized millage, because we just don't tax because we can. So, that might be something in next year's budget, or the year after that, maybe I'll come back with, and I say, instead of this millage being just in a corporate area, we're gonna flip it for a countywide millage to fund these centers. Because at the end of the day, I wanna charge people as fairly as we can throughout the county for the services provided. And the intent when this was set up was one thing, but it has evolved into something a little different. And, I certainly wouldn't advocate going back to the green boxes, but it's a challenge to staff, it's a challenge to keep the customers happy, it's a challenge to keep council from getting blown up, it's a challenge to keep employees over there. It's a challenge, but it's a service we're gonna have to continue to provide as best we can.
One more quick question. When we originally started our convenience centers, what year was that? Anybody know? What year
That's
we
almost
first?
20 years ago.
Shoot, that
Oh,
was,
yeah, it was 20.
yeah,
90s.
And obviously,
cause half my life I grew up,
because obviously the use and the mindset of what they're for now has shifted because of what obviously some of the municipalities have done with their pickup. We're getting a lot more because the cities are taking a lot less.
Yeah, they were initially set up for municipal garbage collection from the unincorporated area. I mean, that's what they were set up to do.
And now that's changed.
Right.
That's kind of changed.
Yeah, you used to find some pretty good stuff sitting inside the green box. Motion is no.
All right, so yeah, we just,
Second, is there a second?
Oh, so yeah, second.
so all in favor of not, we have motion and second, and all in favor to not institute the barcode and sticker system, say aye.
Aye.
We have unanimous vote. And before we adjourn, I just want to say to staff that it was kind of disheartening that we didn't take you guys' advice on how to limit what comes into the landfill. After we had that discussion, it left committee with some decent support. But if it comes back up again.
And I wanna go on record, some of y'all might not be aware of this. The firefighter from Newport that got up there and talked about it, he was not talking about fire department trash, he's talking about from his own house. He's got like 100 trees. That's what he was talking about.
Oh, my gosh.
So, and I don't think that message was clear, and it was unfortunate. We're in the process right now of putting together data on that, because what you're doing, you're making other people pay for that. And, you know, I love Billy Hagman. I love some of these people to death that were opposed to it. But you gotta, what's driving it, and if you got a house with 100 trees, you're putting more into it. You should pay more. That's
Yeah.
the reality of it,
Yeah.
in my mind. But we're gonna come back to y'all again before the budget next year with the results of the work that we're doing at the landfill. And we're gonna take another stab at that and try to do a better job at communicating that message to all the council. But we did appreciate your support on that.
We're gonna have to start sending out flyers for your thing, ain't we? Because there sure ain't no interest in it.
No interest in trash. All right, so
No
I'll
interest.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
You know, we went to the dump the other day.